The city bustled with its usual rhythm cars honking in the distance, street vendors calling out to passing crowds, children squealing in delight as they ran around the park. Amid the noise and color, no one noticed the small girl sitting on a wooden bench near the duck pond. Her fingers were pressed tightly against her ears, her eyes shut as if trying to block out the world. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, and her tiny shoulders trembled beneath her pastel pink dress. The sound of the world was too much for her, and she sat alone, stranded in a storm only she could feel. Her name was Sarah. She was 8 years old and diagnosed with nonverbal autism. Crowds terrified her, loud noises disoriented her. Unless it was from someone she trusted could throw her into a complete meltdown. Her father, Raymond Sterling, was a powerful businessman, a millionaire who had made his fortune in real estate and technology. To the world, he was a commanding figure in tailored suits, known for precision and perfection. But to Sarah, he was simply Papa, the only person who could hold her hand when the world became too loud. Today, they had attended a large charity event hosted near the Central Park, where Raymond was to give a speech. While he spoke with guests under a white pavilion tent, Sarah had wandered off, curious about a butterfly she had seen dancing over the grass. The bodyguards who were meant to watch her had lost sight of her for only a moment, but that moment was all it took. Now, she sat alone, the butterfly long gone, her heart racing as voices and footsteps passed her. The world moved around her, but not one person stopped. No one understood her frozen fear, the silent scream locked inside her chest. Some glanced at her, confused by her stillness. Others assumed she was simply a lost child and chose to keep their distance. The city, for all its grandeur, had no time for mystery, especially not for a girl who didn't speak. Several yards away, near the edge of the park where vendors and performers lined the walkways, stood a barefoot boy. He looked no older than 10 or 11. His hair was messy, his clothes mismatched, and faded from too many washes. Around his neck hung a string with several small plastic bubble bottles, each hand decorated with colorful stickers and glitter. His name was Amin. He had no family, no official birth records, and no address he could call home. The old caretaker at the shelter near the railway station had named him when he was found wandering the streets at age 5. Since then, Amin had survived selling small toys, polishing shoes, and sometimes helping elderly people carry bags for a few rupees. He had learned not to expect kindness from the world, but he had never let that harden him. There was a softness in his eyes, a gentleness in the way he observed others. He would often watch people not out of jealousy, but curiosity. He loved seeing smiles. They reminded him of his mother, whose face he could barely remember, except for the way she used to smile at him before everything went dark. On this particular afternoon, he noticed something out of place. Amid the laughter and movement, a small girl sat still and moving, visibly distressed. Her hands over her ears, body stiff. It wasn't the usual tantrum he sometimes saw from spoiled children. No, this was different. This was fear, real and raw. Without thinking twice, Amin stepped off the path and walked slowly toward her. He didn't speak. He knew some people got scared when strangers approached. Instead, he knelt a few feet away and pulled out a bubble bottle. He unscrewed the lid carefully, dipped the wand in the soapy liquid, and lifted it gently to his lips. Then softly, slowly he blew. Tiny bubbles floated into the warm air, shimmering in the sunlight like fragile rainbows. They danced with the breeze, swirling and spinning toward Sarah. One landed on her knee and popped gently. She flinched, opened her eyes and saw another bubble land on her shoe. She blinked. Aman blew another stream, this time aiming higher, so they floated around her. One by one, the bubbles drifted closer, surrounding her like magic. Her body, tense only moments ago, began to ease. Her hands slowly slipped away from her ears. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes, wide with wonder, followed the bubbles as they swirled around her. She reached out a tentative hand and tried to catch one, but it popped on her fingertip. She gasped, then let out a soft laugh. Amin smiled. He didn't say anything, just kept blowing. More bubbles filled the air, reflecting the park's colors in their delicate surfaces. It was in that moment, a fragile second of peace, that Raymond Sterling finally found his daughter. He had been searching frantically for the last 10 minutes, his heart in his throat. Dozens of men in suits scoured the area, barking orders through ear, but Raymond had ventured off alone, searching with the desperation only a father could feel. Then, from across the lawn, he saw her sitting calmly, smiling. He stopped dead in his tracks. Next to her was a barefoot boy, blowing bubbles. His face serene, unaware of the powerful man watching from a distance. Raymond's chest tightened. He didn't approach right away. Instead, he stood still, completely still, watching this boy calm his daughter in a way no therapist, no nanny, no caregiver had managed to do. There was no tension in Sarah's body, no panic in her eyes. Just a joy connection. Watched as the boy dipped the wand again and blew another stream. This time, Sarah clapped her hands with excitement. A bubble landed on her nose. She giggled. It was a sound so rare that Raymond almost didn't recognize it. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he blinked them away. He couldn't believe what he was witnessing. When Ammon finally noticed the man standing behind them, he jumped to his feet. He backed away quickly, clutching his bubble bottle as if expecting to be scolded or chased. His eyes darted left and right, looking for an escape. But Raymond raised a hand gently. "It's all right," the man said in a soft, low voice. "You didn't do anything wrong." Sarah turned and saw her father. She ran to him and hugged his leg. He bent down, wrapped his arms around her, kissed the top of her head, and held her close. Then he looked back at the boy. Did you calm her down?" Ammon said nothing at first. Then, in a quiet voice, he replied, "She looked scared. I thought maybe bubbles would help." Raymond stood up, towering over him. Ammon didn't flinch, but he didn't meet the man's eyes either. "What's your name?" Raymond asked. "Ammon. How old are you?" "I think, maybe 11. Where are your parents?" Ammon hesitated. "I don't have any." Raymond stared at him for a moment. The boy's clothes were dusty. His feet were cracked from walking barefoot. But his eyes, they were full of something many wealthy people lacked: compassion, instinct, purity. He nodded slowly, absorbing everything. "Come with me," he said. Ammon shook his head. I'm not trying to steal, sir. I only wanted to help." "I know," Raymond replied. "That's exactly why I'm asking you to come." Ammon looked at him warily. "Where to get lunch?" "My treat." Ammon hesitated, then glanced at Sarah, who looked at him and gave a small smile. That was all the encouragement he needed. The restaurant was unlike anything Ammon had ever seen. It sat on the top floor of a glass tower, surrounded by panoramic views of the city skyline. Inside, the walls glowed with soft golden light. The floors gleamed like mirrors, and the scent of freshly baked bread, buttered steak, and sweet herbs filled the air. Guests spoke in hushed voices, wearing designer suits and silk dresses, and waiters glided across the room like ghosts. Ammon had never even been inside a proper restaurant before, let alone one where the menu had no prices. He hesitated at the entrance, suddenly conscious of his dusty clothes and bare feet. But Raymond Sterling didn't seem to care. He gently placed his hand on the boy's shoulder and nodded toward the open table beside the window, where little Sarah was already seated, swinging her feet and staring wide-eyed at the clouds outside. As they sat down, Raymond ordered food for everyone. He didn't ask Ammon what he wanted, he simply ordered enough for a royal feast. Dishes began arriving: butter, chicken, pasta, pizza, fresh fruit, and even 3 kinds of ice cream. Ammon stared, unsure whether to eat or just keep breathing. In the sense, when Raymond urged him to start, he hesitated at first, then took a small bite and his eyes lit up. He ate slowly, savoring every flavor, as if afraid it would disappear if he rushed out across the table. Sarah watched him with fascination. Her father had never seen her so at ease with anyone outside their family. She leaned forward, giggling every time Ammon accidentally smeared sauce near his mouth. At one point, she pointed at him and made a soft pop sound, then mimed a bubble bursting. Ammon grinned, nodded, and reached into his pocket, showing her the same small bubble bottle he'd used earlier. Her eyes lit up. As dessert arrived, Raymond leaned back in his chair, watching the 2 children interact. He had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on private care for Sarah, therapists, behavioral experts, special schools, technology, assistants, yet none of them had managed to reach her the way this boy had. A boy with no home, no education, no shoes. And yet, in the space of an hour, he had accomplished what professionals had failed to do for years. When the plates were cleared, Raymond leaned forward. "Ammon," he said softly, "tell me something. Where do you live?" Ammon wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "There's a shelter near the train station. I sleep there sometimes. Other times, under the bridge." "Do you go to school?" The boy shook his head. "No, sir. I tried once. They said I couldn't come without uniform or books, and I couldn't pay." Raymond's chest tightened. "Do you have anyone? Any family?" Ammon looked away. "I used to have a mother. She died when I was small. Don't remember my father." The millionaire took a long breath. This boy's life was the complete opposite of his own daughter's, and yet, in this strange twist of fate, their paths had crossed, and something beautiful had unfolded. Raymond looked at Sarah. She had crawled into the booth beside Ammon now, resting her head gently against his shoulder, eyes closed. He turned back to Ammon. "Would you like to stay with us for a few days?" Ammon looked up in alarm. "Sir, I want you to be comfortable. Not just tonight. I want to give you a bed, food, safety. If you agree, we can figure something out." The boy blinked. "You mean live in your house?" "For now, yes. If you're comfortable." Ammon hesitated. It felt unreal, like a dream he might wake up from. But when he looked at Sarah, still smiling beside him, he felt something deep and warm, a sense of belonging he hadn't known in years. Slowly, he nodded. That night, Raymond took him home. The mansion was massive, nestled behind tall iron gates and thick gardens. Ammon had never seen so many lights in one house. Inside, staff lined the hall's cook's guards, Nanny's all frozen with surprise at the sight of the barefoot boy being ushered in by the boss himself, but Raymond ignored their stares. He led Eamon upstairs to a guest room, where a hot bath, clean clothes, and a soft bed awaited him. The boy bathed slowly, unsure what to do with half the items in the room, then slipped under the covers and stared at the ceiling for hours, afraid to close his eyes. But eventually, warmth wrapped around him, and for the first time in years, he slept soundly. The days that followed changed Eamon's life in ways he couldn't have imagined. Raymond enrolled him in school the following week, arranging a tutor to help him catch up. Uniforms were stitched, books delivered, and shoes fitted. Eamon cried the first time he wore his new school bags, unused to owning anything that wasn't secondhand. But even more than the material comforts, it was the acceptance that touched him most. The staff, though surprised at first, quickly warmed to him. Sarah grew more attached to him each day. She waited for him every morning, giggled when he walked through the hall, and insisted he sit beside her during meals. She even began communicating more. Her therapists were stunned. She started mimicking Eamon's expressions, copying the way he whistled, and eventually began using her communication board more frequently. One afternoon, she tapped out a full sentence on her tablet for the first time in months. Bubbles make the noise, go away. Eamon didn't understand the miracle he had created. He only knew that being around her made him feel less alone. Raymond watched all this in awe. He began spending more time at home, canceling meetings to attend breakfast with the children. He'd built his empire brick by brick but never realized the home he was building was finally forming around this strange, unexpected trio. One evening, while walking in the garden, Raymond sat with Eamon on a bench. The sky above them was painted in hues of orange and purple. Sarah was chasing butterflies nearby, her laughter ringing across the lawn. You know, Raymond said, breaking the silence, when I was younger, I used to believe that everything in life could be bought: security, happiness, even love. Eamon looked at him quietly. But then my wife died, the man continued, voice tight. Sarah was only 3. And I realized there were things I couldn't fix with money. Things no contract or deal could fix. He paused, watching his daughter twirl in the fading sunlight. And then you came along with a bottle of bubbles and gave her something I couldn't. Peace, joy, a friend. Eamon swallowed. I didn't mean to do anything special. That's what makes it so special, Raymond said, smiling. You did it just by being yourself. After a moment, he added, would you let me be your guardian, Eamon? Not just for now, but for good. Eamon looked at him, stunned. You mean, adopt me? Raymond nodded. Only if you want that. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes. He didn't answer with words. He just threw his arms around the man's waist and held him tightly. Months passed. Eamon adjusted quickly to his new life. He attended school every day, worked hard, and always returned home in time to walk with Sarah in the garden. He never forgot where he came from, and often requested to donate supplies to his old shelter, which Raymond gladly supported. Word of the adoption spread, and newspapers picked up the story. Millionaire adopts street boy who helped his autistic daughter heal. But for the 3 of them, it wasn't about headlines. It was about healing, about second chances, about a quiet boy who had once survived the world alone, and a quiet girl who had once been afraid of How. Together, they had taught a powerful man the one thing he hadn't known how to build: a family.